So I'm reading this week's assignment and I come across the words Brown Scare and I'm puzzled. I'm familiar with Red Scares, Pomerades, McCarthyism. I've never heard of the Brown Scare. And apparently I'm not alone. Gary Allen Fine and Terrence McDonnell actually wrote an article about the collective forgetting of this in history. There were 28 targets, and the scare was focused on rounding up pro-fascist Americans deemed a threat to America and the war effort. They were accused of attempting to spark revolt in the Navy and Army, seeking the impeachment of the president, accusing FDR of promoting miscegenation and accepting Axis foreign policy. One was Gerald Winrod of Kansas, the Jayhawk Hitler, a preacher, successful magazine editor, staunch opponent of FDR and the New Deal, and a Republican primary candidate for the US Senate, indicted July 21st, 1942. He had been born March 7th, 1900. Father John struggled with drink and fighting and lawlessness until his illegal bar that he was tending was busted up by none other than Carrie Nation. He quit all of it, becomes the director of the Healing Tabernacle in Wichita, Kansas. Mabel, the mom, gets a terminal cancer diagnosis that leads to a double mastectomy and an addiction to morphine. The family prays together, and according to John, God speaks directly to Mabel, warning her off the morphine. She gripped the Lord with new faith, was cured not only of addiction, but of cancer. Gerald, 10 at the time, accepts God as a savior, leaves school at 5th grade to become a preacher. He helps form the Defenders of the Faith, and that's supposed to be about fellowship, not fighting, but recognize that there could be no fellowship with theological liberals. They had accepted Darwin and gave Jesus an animal ancestry. By 1927, 1,300 Kansans are part of this group. His fight was against modernism and evolution. He felt Mussolini and Lenin both were tainted with Darwinism, and that Mussolini could eventually be the Antichrist. FDR's NRA Blue Eagle, because he was a dispensationalist, he found it too much like the beast from Revelations that had 7 heads, 10 horns, because the bird, the NRA Blue Eagle, had 7 feathers on one wing and 10 on the other. When he was hit by a drunk driver, he actually sent FDR the bill for car repairs because FDR had ended prohibition. Convinced he had been misled by anti-Nazi propaganda, he began to sympathize with the German regime. After 1939, his anti-Semitism increased, as did his indulgence in a legion of conspiracy theories. So notable was his rise that FDR asked frequent Winrod critic William Allen White to explain who the allegedly fascist Senate candidate was. He finished 3rd in the primary, but that cemented his reputation as a Nazi. It didn't help when his wife sued for divorce in 1940, claiming he wanted to lead the country when the revolution came. She later recants, they remarry, and the episode is explained by illness. The case, United States versus McWilliams, was often a spectacle that made Inherit the Wind look like a dry legal procedural by comparison. Long trial, ends in mistrial when the presiding judge dies of a heart attack, something Winrod attributes to divine judgment. The court chose not to reschedule it in 1945. The prosecutor neither wanted to retry it or entrust it to another. Instead, he just wanted to leak it. His boss, Attorney General Tom Clark, refuses. He leaks it anyway. He gets fired. On November 26, 1946, in district court, Chief Justice Belito Laws granted motions to dismiss on grounds that the defendants have been denied a speedy trial, and that's upheld in appeals. Still, the legal farce occupied some of FDR's biggest critics, right up to and beyond the end of the war and his own death. A pattern, though, comes into focus with conservative right-wing actors portrayed along with fundamentalists as dangerous, irrational, worthy of mockery, dismissal, and perhaps prosecution. On his passing, the Arizona Post observed, Reverend Gerald Winrod, notorious American anti-Semite, died in Wichita, Kansas at the age of 57.